Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for a landmark two-day visit. Defence, energy and trade are expected to be among the topics discussed amid ongoing global tensions. Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance has confirmed that a trade agreement has been finalised between the US and India at a speech at the Jaipur Business Summit. This comes after a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday as Vance continues his four-day visit in India. Cardinals have met in the Vatican following the death of Pope Francis on Monday, with plans being made for his funeral. The Pope's coffin will be taken to St. Peter's Basilica in an open casket for the public to pay their respect. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has called Vladimir Putin's 30-hour Easter truce a marketing operation. The comment comes after Vladimir Putin stated he was open to direct conversations with Ukraine over a potential ceasefire. Israeli strikes in Gaza have reportedly killed at least 23 people since dawn, according to local media sources. This comes as Palestinian officials suggest that Qatar and Egypt have proposed a long-term permanent Gaza ceasefire that would see the release of all Israeli hostages. US President Donald Trump has backed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over reports of a second Yemen strike signal chat leak. Meanwhile, the White House has denied reports that it is looking to replace Hegseth amid the controversy. Harvard has sued to block US President Donald Trump from freezing over $2.2 billion in federal funding. The university had rejected a list of White House demands after Trump's administration raised concern over pro-Palestinian protests on campus. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his New Zealand counterpart Christopher Luxon are expected to strengthen security and defence ties at a meeting in England later. They will also meet with Ukrainian troops being trained in the UK. We start with our top story this hour. Some breaking news, and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has touched down in Jeddah, marking his third visit to Saudi Arabia since taking office. The two-day state visit will emphasise on Delhi's efforts to deepen strategic ties with Riyadh. Upon arrival, Prime Minister Modi received a ceremonial welcome complete with a 21-gun salute. Staying on the topic, an Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Saudi Arabia to deepen bilateral ties between New Delhi and Riyadh. As a special gesture, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's aircraft was escorted by F-15s of the Royal Saudi Air Force as he entered the Saudi airspace. Modi will be holding high-level talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Modi and MBS are set to co-chair the second meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council during the visit. According to the Indian ambassador in Saudi Arabia, a large number of memorandums of understanding are expected to be signed, with key discussions being on strengthening economic ties, bolstering defence cooperation and energy cooperation. Reportedly, an MOU on green hydrogen will be signed, signalling a push towards sustainable energy cooperation. The leaders are also expected to discuss the implementation of the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor and exchange views on pressing global issues, including the Israel-Hamas conflict and the war in Ukraine. Modi will also be interacting with the diaspora. Well, joining us to discuss the importance of this meeting, we have Patrick Pine, a geopolitical expert who is joining us from New Delhi. Patrick, thank you ever so much for being here with us. I apologise. We are in fact joined by Uday Pratap Singh, our senior editor with NewsX, who's joining us live from Jeddah. Uday, a quick switch up. Thank you for jumping in. What can you tell us about the arrival of Prime Minister Modi in Jeddah? What was it that you saw?
Well, what a grand welcome for the Indian Prime Minister, no doubt, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Of course, literally the red carpet rolled out for him. You saw, of course, how as soon as he entered Saudi airspace, there were F-15s which escorted his plane, into Saudi Arabia, into Jeddah airspace, and then, of course, he landed, on Jeddah. The first time actually he's landed in Jeddah. He's been, of course, to Saudi Arabia thrice before, but never actually to Jeddah. That was a very special and significant gesture. You don't see this very often for many world leaders. Then, of course, you saw how, there were a host of dignitaries to welcome him at the airport. He just reached the, the hotel where, of course, I'm at right now. I'll just quickly show you what's happening over here. This is the Ritz-Carlton Jeddah. You can see there the purple carpet, of course, was laid out for him. There were many members of the Indian diaspora who were present here and greeting him. Also, of course, some Saudi businessmen as well. You had, of course, also a cultural performance, two cultural performances actually that were done for Prime Minister Modi. He enjoyed them greatly. He was smiling through it. We saw that, of course, a short while back. There was, of course, a senior minister from the government of Saudi Arabia who was also present there along with him, escorting him inside the hotel. "Ae Watan Mere Watan," a very popular, song. Of course, it's a patriotic song. It's also a film song that was, being sung over here, interestingly, by members of the Arab community as well. So, "Ae Watan Mere Watan," in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, with the Indian flag outside. The Jeddah Corniche, the beachside, is just outside this hotel, Josh, and it's great to see the Indian flag flying there along with the Saudi Arabia ones, showing, of course, how close ties have become between the two countries. Now, of course, there is some time for the Prime Minister to meet with some editors, top editors of Arab publications, and later today. Also, more extensive sort of meeting with the Indian diaspora will be taking place in the evening as well. And then, of course, that is followed by, the main aspect of his visit. The bilateral summit with Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the second Strategic Council meeting, and also, of course, a state banquet that will be hosted for PM Modi at the palace. Now, tomorrow, sources tell us that Prime Minister Modi is likely to visit a dates factory in Jeddah before then leaving back for Delhi. It is, of course, a very, very crucial visit with trade, energy, defense, security, business, to be infrastructure. All of this, of course, will be discussed during this visit by PM Modi, of course, to Saudi Arabia, will be discussed in the evening today. IMEC, remember, which, of course, is the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor, something that was announced when India was hosting the G20 summit in New Delhi. That is expected to perhaps get some, timelines and more structure through this meeting today. So yes, a lot, of course, on the agenda. And the fact that the meeting is happening in Jeddah means that trade, economy is really going to be the focus.
Yes, Uday, we spoke to you earlier on today, and there was a section and a group of people, Indian people living now in Saudi Arabia. Of course, there is a large Indian population within the country. What will Prime Minister Modi be doing in that regard as well? We expect some meetings potentially to take place.
He always does that, Josh. He considers the Indian diaspora a soft power abroad, which is why no matter how busy Prime Minister Modi is on these foreign visits, he always takes out time to meet and greet the Indian diaspora, wherever he goes, and that's going to happen today as well in Saudi Arabia. There is a meeting of 30 minutes, that's 4 to 4:30 p.m. that has been outlined for meeting and greeting the Indian diaspora, Saudi time. So that means about, 6:30 to 7 Indian time. And that is, of course, going to be a meet and greet with members of the Indian community. We spoke to some of them. They've come from not just Jeddah, but Riyadh, Dammam, many parts of Saudi Arabia. Also, of course, there is a very, very crucial handshake, perhaps, that will happen with some prominent Indian businessmen here as well. Many of them have reached Saudi for this visit as well. You saw how, the PM, of course, met with some of the diaspora earlier of course, spending time with them, talking with them. They adulate him. Many of them are from Gujarat as well, his home state. And the fact that he actually takes his time out to speak with them, enthuses them to look at, taking India's image abroad, wherever they are, including, of course, in Saudi Arabia, that really enthuses the diaspora a lot. And today, of course, is also going to provide an opportunity for them.
Yes, absolutely, Uday. Just to finish up our discussion, of course, we've had that announcement from JD Vance, who met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday. How important is this meeting today in Saudi at strengthening those ties with other nations amid geopolitical uncertainty?
Well, yes, we perhaps, there are conflicts, of course, happening in Russia, Ukraine, also Israel and Hamas. So we can perhaps expect, that to be maybe mentioned at some point in the meeting. We'll keep an eye on that. Remember, Saudi Arabia has, of course, been trying to be a bridge to bring about peace in the Middle East. Also, of course, yes, because of these tariff and trade wars, trade discussions and possibly a free trade agreement being signed as well, or at least negotiated between India and Saudi Arabia. That also is something very, very important that we will be keeping a close eye on, Josh. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go because we've got a couple of other important voices that I'm going to quickly go and interview now.
Pratap Singh, thank you ever so much for joining us. We're just going to take you to some visuals that we're seeing online showing you Modi's entrance in Saudi Arabia after onboarding the plane. You can see him here being greeted, of course, by officials, meeting people here in Jeddah as well, holding conversations as Uday was talking about. Indian flags waving, a large Indian community living within Saudi Arabia as we spoke about. And of course, away from these scenes here, there will of course be serious conversations had, serious dialogue had between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and senior officials in Saudi Arabia. We are now going to go to Patakrit Pine, a geopolitical expert who's joining us from New Delhi to discuss in a little bit more detail those meetings. Patakrit, thank you ever so much for being here with us. What is the significance specifically on some of these meetings that will be taking place on energy, on trade, and also on defence?
Thank you, Joshua. Well, first and foremost, India is on the cusp of becoming a $5 trillion economy. So it's one of the biggest consumer of energy in the world. And therefore, for Saudi Arabia, it's a very, very big market which cannot be ignored. There is a symbiotic relationship because Saudi Arabia itself imports a large number of commodities from India. At the same time, Saudi Arabia is a country which is undergoing some structural transformation within the society. And that is very significant so far as future of Middle East is concerned, so far as future of Islam is concerned, because some of the holiest shrines of Islam is in Saudi Arabia. And therefore, I think, in many areas today, there is convergence between India and Saudi Arabia on issues of governance, on issues of cooperation in trade, on issues of cooperation in science and technology, and on specifically on issues of application of information technology for good governance. Some of these areas India has done remarkably well. At the same time, if you look at Saudi Arabia is a country which is extremely keen on the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor. The reason being is that if you see some of these major Middle Eastern countries which have been predominantly dominated by the oil economy, they are trying to diversify. And India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor, Saudi Arabia is going to be one of the most critical transit point for that corridor, which will start from India and it will eventually reach Europe. So I think if Saudis are looking for diversification, then invariably investments from India, invariably success of this corridor, invariably creating an alternate supply chain which is resilient, will play a very critical role. And I think the Saudis are extremely keen on that. At the same time, some of the pertinent issues that India is facing, say, for example, the challenges of dollar-denominated sanctions, even though today you have a government which is far more pro-India, The threats of sanctions we have faced for a long time. And I think the Saudis are equally concerned about that. On many occasions, they were threatened by sanctions as well. So while we acknowledge the importance of dollar, I think many countries are also looking for alternate in terms of having global trade in local currencies. And on many occasions, Saudis have also shown an evinced interest in BRICS, though they have not yet joined it. I think the potential possibility of alternate payment mechanisms being discussed, UPI being discussed, is a strong possibility, because there's a very, very substantial and a very, prosperous Indian diaspora which stays in Middle East. A significant of that is in Saudi Arabia as well. So when it comes to cultural aspect of it, when it comes to religious aspect of it, there are areas of convergence. When it comes to investments, non-oil investments, I think India is a potential partner. And at the same time, the manner in which Prime Minister Modi has galvanized and meandered India in terms of helping the country to metamorphose into a major, at least one of the top, if not the top, exporter of defense commodities. I think the transformation of India in defense arena is remarkable. So I think for Saudi Arab, India can also be one of the prospective countries to look forward to get quality, high quality, cost effective weapon systems. So invariably there are areas. That's why the India-Saudi Arab strategic partnership means a lot. And I think if you see a substantive trade agreement being talked about or discussed, I will not be surprised. Saudi Arab is a very, very critical country so far as Middle Eastern relationship is concerned. You see, there's a war going on between Israel and the Palestinians, especially the Hamas rather, and it has significant impact on Middle East. Now, many of the countries like India and Saudi Arab, they want these wars to end. At the same time, they want to have a world where terrorism does not impact or threaten sovereignty of countries. So there are areas of convergence in those issues. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia is a very critical voice when it comes to OIC, Organization for Islamic Countries. So when it comes to taking forward India's viewpoint, when it comes to taking forward India's concerns, I think Saudi Arabia plays a very important role. And at the same time, I think one of the things which Saudis admire and appreciate about India.
Patakrit Pine, I'm very sorry to cut you off there. Thank you very much for joining us. We do have some breaking news just coming in, and at least 6 tourists have been injured in a terrorist attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, India. Security forces and medical teams have rushed to the area. A search operation is also underway. Now, gunshots were heard in the upper meadows of Pahalgam's Baisaran Valley. The area is approachable only on foot or on horseback. According to reports, the terrorists were in camouflage and it's believed to be a targeted attack. You can see some of the images that we are showing on screen now. Some chaotic scenes, looking like people are running away from an area. We know that one non-local tourist has been injured. Just to reiterate what you are seeing on screen, and there are reports of a terrorist incident that has taken place in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. At least 6 people have reportedly been injured following this attack. We're hearing that an operation is currently underway after gunshots were heard in the upper meadows of Pahalgam's Baisaran Valley. The area is only approachable on foot or on horseback. Again, of course, this is a developing situation. These early images that we have been getting through information, of course, limited at the moment, but reports of a terrorist attack that has taken place with gunshots heard. Now, the current number of people that we have heard injured is at least 6. One of those confirmed as non-Indian so far, with a search operation currently underway. The situation developing. There will, of course, be further updates, but currently a search operation is ongoing. People reportedly wearing camouflaged involved in this incident in Jammu and Kashmir. These are the live visuals that we will be seeing here. We expect, of course, further information and updates as we get them, but these visuals from a short while ago on the scene, we can see the emergency service vehicles rushing to the scene where we assume this attack has taken place, if reports are to be believed. Again, here another image that we have seen of people seemingly walking away, running away in some instances from an incident here that has taken place with a search operation underway. We will bring you more information on this as we get it, a developing situation that we will hear more information on shortly. More images here, as you can see, a military presence, of course, following these reports. Unclear as of yet what the situation is on the ground. The early reports are that the terrorists were in camouflage, and it's believed to be a targeted attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. We will, of course, bring you all of the updates on that apparent terrorist attack as we get them, but we now move to North America. The White House has dismissed reports about seeking a replacement for US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as fake news. The White House has also expressed its support for Hegseth amid the raging fallout after a controversy emerged following his alleged mishandling of military information. Reportedly, neither Hegseth nor the White House denied that he had shared such information in a second Signal group chat. Meanwhile, United States President Donald Trump has backed his defense chief. He has branded the controversy as a waste of time and said that the Pentagon chief is doing a great job. The controversy comes a month after a journalist was added to a Signal group chat in which US cabinet officials, including Hegseth, discussed plans to attack Houthi rebels in Yemen. In this second Signal chat, Hegseth has shared information about airstrikes against Yemen. The chat reportedly included his wife, his brother, his lawyer, and others without any security clearance. According to reports, the group also included two of Hegseth's senior advisors, Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, who were fired last week for allegedly leaking unauthorized information. We stay in the United States, and a New York jury has found the wife of Bob Menendez, a former New Jersey senator, guilty for her role in a years-long bribery scheme that included stacks of cash, gold bars and a Mercedes-Benz. Nadine Menendez was found guilty on all 15 counts, including bribery and obstruction of justice, and for aiding her husband, ex-Senator Robert Menendez, who received lavish gifts in exchange for political favours. She was indicted with her husband in September 2023, but had her trial delayed for breast cancer treatments. A sentencing date for Menendez has been set for the 12th of June. Her husband was convicted in July 2024 and sentenced to 11 years in prison. In a statement, the US Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York said that the couple were partners in crime who participated in corrupt official acts. The statement also said that the verdict sends the clear message that the power of government officials may not be put up for sale. We head away from North America now, and Pope Francis, the leader of 1.4 billion Catholics, has passed away at the age of 88 after suffering a stroke and heart failure. The late Pope's funeral will be held at 10 a.m. local time on the 26th of April, according to the Vatican. They have also released images of Pope Francis in his open coffin, wearing a red robe, papal mitre and holding a rosary. The photos were taken at Casa Santa Marta. Meanwhile, the cardinals gathered at the Vatican today to plan Pope Francis's funeral which leaders from around the world will attend ahead of a conclave next month to elect a new head of the Roman Catholic Church. Tributes have flooded in globally, and his home country of Argentina has declared a week of mourning, while India began 3 days of state mourning as well. We have some more breaking news to bring you, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his New Zealand counterpart Christopher Luxon have given statements after visiting the training of Ukrainian forces at an army base. This comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke about bilateral talks with Zelensky. Let's have a look.
What we call the coalition of the willing, which is those allies that want to be there to ensure that if there is a deal and a ceasefire, that it is a lasting peace for Ukraine and for Europe and the world. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for showing us the training that you're doing this morning. I leave here in a moment just as humbled as I did the first time, thinking about the training you're providing, the training that you're receiving, and the really important task to our Ukrainian colleagues that you are going on to perform on behalf of your own country, but also on behalf of the values and freedoms that we hold dear. So it's a real privilege to be able to be here with you this morning. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Prime Minister of New Zealand. And I think it's really, and I hope you can see as a statement of intent, to see two Prime Ministers standing here together to show the joint way in which our two countries approach this, to show the strength of our working relationship and how closely we're aligned are on issues of defence and security, on many other issues as well. So Chris, over to you. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Well, kia ora, good morning everybody. Can I just say also what a tremendous privilege it is to be here today and to see up close and first-hand the incredible work that you're all doing together. Can I just acknowledge Prime Minister Starmer and just say thank you, Keir, for your unwavering support for Ukraine. Thank you for the global leadership role that you are playing and for stepping up into that. It's important work and we really appreciate what you're doing leading the way there. And also to the UK team that's actually hosting all the 14 countries that are now operating out of here. I want to say thank you for the work that you do, and it's been a real privilege for us as a New Zealand team and contingent to partner with the UK officers and leaders that are here as well. But most importantly, can I acknowledge the Ukrainian soldiers that are here in front of us today. And I want you to know that you are deeply inspirational to us, that we have huge admiration for your bravery, for your courage, and for the sacrifice that you make. It is incredibly sobering to think that many of you have been to this place to train, you've been out to the battlefront, you've come back now as leaders to actually do more training, and in a matter of days could be back at the front line again, actually fighting for freedom and the defence of your country and what is an incredibly unjust, illegal and immoral war started by Russia. And so I want you to know that you are heroes. President Zelensky.
Christopher Luxon, Prime Minister of New Zealand, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer there. That is all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more of the latest breaking news from across the world.